Hi friends! Today we're going to talk a little bit about primary research sources that are not surveys and not interviews and not observations. So there are a couple other sources that you can use. We'll talk about three of them. One is discourse analysis, another one is narrative inquiry, and a third one is called landscape narrative. So the stuff we've learned about from Dr. Driscoll and in Curious Researcher is mainly about interviews and about surveys. Now, both of those can be conducted online, and as we know right now, we're in quarantine, so we do need to do all of our work online or do it in such a way, if we're doing observation, that we're 6 feet from other people and we're not in a public place that has more than 10 people. So observations are potentially going to be online observations or what's called visual analysis. Now, I'm not going to talk about visual analysis today, but that is something that I have posted information about and an explanation of how to do visual analysis on the Moodle. So if you're interested in doing visual analysis, for example, you are looking at 3 art pieces and comparing them, or you are going to be watching a video and comparing it to other things, just read that material. It's an unusual choice, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. So let's look at the 3 things we have for today. So first, let's talk a little bit about narrative inquiry. So narrative inquiry is a way of approaching research if you are someone who is on the inside of that research, meaning let's say that I'm going to research about being a writer. Well, I am a writer, so I'm on the inside of that community already, and narrative inquiry is a great way to make sure that I'm honoring both my thoughts about it as well as other people's. So the way narrative inquiry works is you usually come up with questions almost like an interview, but often just one question or even as many as 3. But what you're looking for is for someone to write a narrative. So they're going to write the story of something. In the case of one of my previous students, she did the story of how to cope with chemotherapy, and she had 2 other people respond similarly. Now, once you have that material, then you code it, right? We'll talk about coding later, but suffice it to say, if you'd like to do narrative inquiry, it's a great choice if you are someone who's on the inside of your discourse community. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about today is something that's not very commonly done, and that's landscape narrative. Landscape narrative is when you either virtually or physically go through a space and talk about its usefulness. Or talk about its impact on you. For example, if you wanted to talk about the success or failure of a design concept, like the Museum of Modern Art, you would walk through it, or you could go virtually through it right now and discuss what was working about it. The best way to approach that is what's called a dual entry notebook. So on one side of the notebook, you write literally just what you see, the exact what you see, and then on the other side how you feel about it. And you can do that in any observation situation. That's a little bit unusual, but it may be something that you're interested in. And then finally, I'm going to talk about something that many of you might be interested in doing, which is discourse analysis. That was used by Galaxy Wide Writing Strategies, and it's a great example of discourse analysis. So anytime that you use discourse analysis, you're looking at a corpus of materials. It could be archival materials, meaning older materials, or it could be current ones like my studies on Twitter and tweets. So you take a corpus of materials. In the case of my study, I took about 500 tweets, and then I coded them for how often certain words were used. For you, you're not going to want to go that big. Maybe even something like 5 tweets is enough, or 2 or 3 letters, or something else that you find, like a couple of articles that are all contrasting. I've written several papers where I use other people's articles and talk about their arguments and then say, this is the argument that makes most sense. That's an okay kind of discourse analysis too. So anytime you do discourse analysis, you want to think about what it is you're trying to do, what kind of discourse is happening, what's the intentionality of it, and what's your intentionality. So do read up on each of these, and I am happy to send individually appropriate work that you could read, but John Paul G is great for discourse analysis. Gloria Park is great for narrative inquiry. So those are my two go-to researchers for those two. Landscape narrative, there are some people who've done it. Most of them do our anthropological stuff. So if you're interested in that, I can look up what would be maybe the best piece there. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.